Hi, I'm Tom Bowling, and I want to share with you some autumn collections from the Pioneer Imports and Wholesale Company. And when we look at fall, we think about textures, and texture is the way an object feels. And look how textural the grasses are in this particular item here. So when we look at whatever it happens to be, we look at color and we all respond, because that's the number one element that people respond to is color. I was having a discussion earlier with our one of the assistants, and she said, I love these, but I'm not real sure about the blue. So she's reacting to the blue. Well, again, blue is the strong color. It's a favorite color. So we have to keep that in mind as we go forward. And I like to introduce blue or purple, one of those saturated, elegant looks into my autumn looks and collections. All right, let's build this one. So I have a garland, as you can see. There's the end to it. Snapping that right off at the very end. Quick and easy. I want to cover my mechanic, but I don't want to spend a lot of time, effort, and money into that. So this is using a garland is a great way to accomplish that. Secure it. A couple hairpins from a previous project. Boom, I am ready. And you can see it just cascades and spills over. But all of a sudden we look at the opposite side, so it looks like somebody came in and literally cut that piece right off, which, let's face it, I did. So I want to soften that edge. I want to make sure that it blends in and works with the rest of what's happening here, that you don't notice that. It's like somebody came in and removed the rest of my fingers. I want to take your eye out gracefully out of the design. So by adding those berries, now all of a sudden you see the texture, but you don't see exactly the stop and start. Berries are one of those design components that just allow us to give the feel. It changes the value of the color, and it changes the forms of the flowers that we're working with. And whether it's fresh, if it's hypericum berries, or in this case the permanent berries as you see here, there's so many interesting textures, and that's what it's about. So I'm adding a couple hydrangea, boom, grouping those in a light growing area. Earlier I was working with the grasses. Gonna add those in. Kind of gives us that gathered, arranged look. It's free, but it still has a purpose to it. There's a reason for the design, as you'll notice here. So I've got some extension over here. I need to add a little bit more freedom onto the opposite side. I'm going to use this heather, which comes with a fern attached to it. So I'm going to use the fern to, again, just bring the coloration back over, strengthen that just a little bit more. Work that heather into the center. So as we look at the composition now, your eye moves from side to side, placement to placement. I had a stem of the marigolds from a previous project. So let's add those in. They're kind of weighty, visually weighty. So I want to make sure that I put those in. Add a couple of the gold placements in. Bend, hold in place, and insert. Make sure, again, I haven't glued anything, but yet you can see the strength in my mechanic at that point, just by taking the stem, bend, hold the stem in place, insert, release. And then I am going to add the blue, this beautiful ranunculus. And we look at the different sizing. And normally when we think of sizing, the smaller is usually at the extreme, at the end, like our fingers are to our hand is to our arm is to the body. As we get closer to the center of a composition, we generally think of the weight being more into the middle. It doesn't have to be that way. There was no law that said thou shalt put smaller things at the end and larger at the center. It didn't work that way. But we can definitely take advantage of nature in the way that we're constructed and make that happen. Now, when we look at, you'll notice groups, blocks of color, interest areas, areas that are light, and areas that are weighty as far as the flowers are concerned, and the color. So it's an interplay of shapes, forms, textures, colors, all of the principles and elements coming together to make Pioneer Imports and Wholesale a fabulous resource for your autumn collections.